Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We had this Republican debate last night with 5 Republican candidates, and it's good that Ron Paul was there to say no to the various wars and to oppose the path towards dictatorship. However, when it comes to the economic policies, I am in total and vehement disagreement with the Ron Paul economic policies, and I'd hoped to have time for that today, but because of the emergency, that will have to be postponed. Rather, I would warn that in many ways, this entire process of Republican debates, Republican primaries, the usual machinery of democratic elections may become irrelevant before we think, before we might believe it. The question is Petraeus. I have warned repeatedly of the threat of Bonapartism. If you go back again to Weimar Germany, you will see that the totalitarian dictatorship of Hitler did not arrive all at once, but it was preceded by a phase which you could call Bonapartist dictatorship, in that case exercised by the president, the Reichspresident Paul von Hindenburg, who had been the leading German military commander in World War I, or at least seemed to be. It was really Ludendorff making most of the decisions, Hitler's friend Ludendorff, but Hindenburg was the guy that the public revered. And, of course, he had allowed the government, starting with Brüning, von Papen and von Schleicher very briefly, to rule by decree. In other words, whatever the chancellor wanted, Hindenburg would sign it as an emergency decree under a state of emergency. So essentially the prelude to Hitler was a period of about 3 years of Bonapartist dictatorship carried out by a general, a retired general, but a general nevertheless. Now, in the case of these Republicans, I think the Trump phenomenon and the dynamic of this debate that we've just had shows that I doubt very much that any of these figures are going to be the Republican nominee. That could change. The word is that Obama's riding high. I don't think he is. I think the economic situation is so disastrous that he can easily be dragged down. Therefore, Petraeus would come in, something like General Eisenhower in 1952, but in a much more sinister way, riding above the Republican Party, but not being forced to take positions on evolution and all the claptrap that goes on in these debates. I would therefore say anybody who tells you that Petraeus is the solution to the current situation, watch out, because that is essentially Bonapartist propaganda. We've heard from a number of sources, if Petraeus takes over the CIA, he will straighten them out and do a good job. I would regard that as another step towards Bonapartism. You could figure that Petraeus right now would have the support of the military. He would have the support of the Tea Party, which is all retired military. He would have the support of a lot of intellectuals, and if he could add to that the support of the CIA, maybe that's how he's running his campaign, the Army and the CIA, and that's what a Petraeus government would be. And I think this is extremely sinister. So he is certainly in reserve if Barkey falters, which he's very, very likely to do. I would also not engage in manic forecasts about what the American people might do in the presence of a false flag. I would go for Bonapartism watch and drill watch. In other words, if you want people to respond, you better start educating them right away. Another interesting point, we saw Tom Hartman this week, the radio host Tom Hartman, giving Alex Jones a very hard time on his radio television program in this case, and I think this reflects let's say a systematic flaw in the way that Tom Hartman looks at the world. And I'd like to point out the book that Tom Hartman co-authored about the Kennedy assassination, along with a guy called Waldron. This is called Ultimate Sacrifice, John and Robert Kennedy, The Plan for a Coup in Cuba and the Murder of JFK. And what does he say in here? I'll just give you a couple of quotes, and I'll quote directly, quote, "We do not believe that the CIA as an organization killed JFK, or that the assassination was the work of a large clique inside the CIA. More than anything, the CIA's decades-long organizational cover-up was designed to hide intelligence failures and protect reputations under the guise of protecting those involved in the anti-Castro plot. And one reviewer goes on to say that de Waldron and Hartman constantly presumed that agents and informers in contact with both the Mafia and the CIA were always under the control of the Mafia, not the CIA. I think this is a systematic flaw in analysis. And if you want to read something about that, get the Joan Mellon book, Mellen, which I think is the best summary that we have so far. Finally, the summer of 1914, is that where we are now? Remember, the Sarajevo assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was at the end of June. World War I did not break out until the end of July. There's more than a month there of La-La Land, and it's recalled by people as idyllic, bucolic, a kind of a very special time. Let's give a couple of examples here. Stefan Zweig, Z-W-E-I-G. It's called The World of Yesterday, Die Welt von Gestern. So this is now Austria-Hungary between the Sarajevo assassination, and most people think that nothing is going to happen because it's all going on behind the scenes. So his quote is, "Throughout the days and nights, the heavens were silky blue, the air soft yet not sultry, the meadows fragrant and warm, the forests dark and profuse in their tender green." Now, you will also find all kinds of work about this. Thomas Mann, the Magic Mountain, right there, Zauberberg, is about essentially what goes on in a tuberculosis sanitarium, partly at the end, right in that critical month of July, say, and early August. Well, by early August, it's clear that there's a war. 1914, the famous French writer Roger Martin Dugard, Martindugard, wrote a book called Summer 1914. I'm trying to see if I can find in my notes now some other examples of this. It's a whole genre. We've done Stefan Zweig, Roger Martin Dugard for France, Alice Meynell, Meynell, Summer in England, 1914. This is a series of idyllic, elegiac, bucolic references to the last innocent summer of 1914 before the catastrophe. Charlotte Link, Sturmzeit, Stormy Times, first part of that trilogy, the summer of 1914. Rolf Hochhuth, remember him, the deputy, der Stellvertreter, summer 1914, summer 14. That's a play. Now, the reason I bring this up, this past week in the Washington Post, May 4th, Ruth Marcus, triumph in full bloom, and she's telling how great she feels that bin Laden is dead, and then she starts to talk about her garden. She wants to tell you about orange marigolds, purple petunias, yellow sprinklings of white and lavender. She's got daisies. She's got petunias. She's got purple salvia. She's got white candy tuft. And she does a whole thing about poppies and so forth. The kind of mood that people slip into when they are aware I would say at a preconscious level, others might say a subconscious level, that the old world, the old empire is about to collapse and something terrible is going to happen. So be aware of this. A lot of people are in La-La Land. They think that the war is over. And notice in the middle of this, the tremendous betrayal of the left libs. The left libs are now warmongers. I don't even need to tell you the names. The whole MSNBC lineup, a lot of people that were anti-war. Remember, in August of 1914, the German Social Democrats, who had promised to be against the war, voted for the credits for the loans and bonds that were essential for the war. So when the left begins to go into the warmonger camp, that's when it's really scary. And then compared to the last war emergency in 2007, in those days there was a pretty militant peace movement, impeachment movement, 9/11 truth movement. That has now been swept away by Obama. And the war, just like the crash, is likely to come when it is least expected. And that may well be now. So gear up, and people, spread the word, get on Twitter, assert the reality principle of this desperate international situation. See you soon.